This cartoon is entitled Jungle Jitters. It was originally released in the year 1938 by Warner Brothers. It was later became part of the Censored 11, which are 11 cartoons that were deemed too racist or politically incorrect by modern standards. This list was created in the year 1968 by United Artists, and consequently these cartoons are no longer aired or distributed. This particular cartoon became part of the Censored 11 due to its depictions of African Americans. The entire cartoon is a parody of African tribes, making their traditions and culture seem extremely primitive and animalistic. This is evidenced, for example, in their dancing. If you look at the character here, his dancing is extremely exaggerated and appears nonsensical. The belief that African Americans are inferior to whites is also portrayed through the physical characteristics of the characters. All of the characters in this clip have extremely dark skin and large pale lips. This is reminiscent of blackface that was used during the minstrel shows in order to parody the culture of African Americans in the 1800s. The filmmakers exaggerate other physical characteristics of the Africans in this clip, such as their body shapes and faces look more monkey-like than human. The filmmakers use all of these traits in order to communicate the ideology that African Americans are subhuman. This supports Omi and Winon's argument in their piece Racial Formation that ideologies are passed down from generation to generation in order to maintain the status quo of society. The status quo in America has traditionally been a strict racial classification between blacks and whites. The passing down of these ideologies is not always obvious. As Omi and Winon say in their piece, everybody learns some combination, some version of the rules of racial classification and of her own racial identity, often without obvious teaching or conscious inculcation. Thus we are inserted into a comprehensively racialized social structure. Race becomes common sense, a way of comprehending, explaining, and acting in the world. When children are watching these cartoons on Saturday morning, they are probably not thinking of the subliminal messages that are present within them. Even though they are unaware of these hidden racial messages, they are still being introduced into the highly racialized world we all currently live in. If you listen carefully to the character who just spoke, you would find that he's in fact not speaking at all. He is only speaking in nonsensical sounds and not words. This small detail again adds to the filmmaker's portrayal of Africans as primitive. Another important observation to make about this scene is that the salesman here is a dog. This fact suggests that we should assume that all the characters in this cartoon are animals. This conveys the filmmaker's belief that the Africans in this clip should be viewed as animals, and by extension, African Americans should be viewed as animals as well.
I have here a fine assortment of assorted useful, useless utensils.
The line of tribesmen in this particular scene are looking at the salesman with hunger and desire. They peer over the fence, licking their lips, and see him as a chicken. The Africans in this clip are therefore supposed to be cannibals. Cannibalism is an extremely barbaric practice. This again adds to the portrayal of African Americans as being primitive. As several tribesmen sit at the table waiting for dinner, they bang their forks and knives against its wooden surface. This will never be permitted at the table of civilized individuals. Therefore, the filmmakers suggest that Africans are not civilized and are therefore primitive and subhuman. The parody of African culture again comes into play in this scene. The queen of this particular tribe is a chicken. This is designed to mock African tribes that are typically polytheistic or animist.
We are having our salesman for dinner, please.
Similar to earlier in the clip, the filmmakers convey the belief that African Americans are primitive through the sound of their voices. Although the character in this scene does actually speak, he does so in a manner that exaggerates the stereotype of African Americans' voices.
Don't you think? Or don't you? What you doing here, young man?
In this particular scene, the queen of the African tribe meets the salesman.
That you can afford.
He gives his typical sales pitch for his technologically advanced toaster, and as he does so, the queen begins to develop romantic feelings for him. In the upcoming moments of this scene, the queen becomes love-struck by the salesman. This is evidenced by her batting eyelashes and the hearts drawn around her. She then imagines the salesman to be different, famous, attractive male entertainers of the time period.
I just can't find the word.
The reactions of the queen and those of the African tribesmen to the salesman are in stark contrast to one another. The queen sees the salesman as a man and values him as such. She, in fact, sees him as someone who is worthy of her affections. The African tribesmen, on the other hand, only value the salesman as they see him as their next meal. This is the irony of the cartoon, as a chicken, an animal, is more capable of human emotion than the African tribesmen. Through this irony, the filmmakers suggest that African Americans must be subhuman, as they are no better than an animal at having human capabilities. The highly stereotypical physical characteristics that were apparent earlier in the cartoon make a final appearance in this scene. The man presiding over the wedding of the queen and the salesman is drawn to blatantly look like he is in blackface. This caricature was designed with the express purpose of mocking African Americans and was used commonly in works with racial messages, most famously the book Little Black Sambo. Cartoons and other such animations have been used as an effective means of communicating certain ideologies, especially during times of heightened racial tensions. This is an important lesson to keep in mind next time you flip on the TV to watch Saturday morning cartoons.